Ah, the N64, one of the most amazingest things in the history of the universe, in my opinion. I've spent countless hours playing so many amazing games on this awesome console ever since I was a wee little Roxas. Awesome games like Super Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie, Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, Paper Mario, Snowboard Kids, and Pokemon Snap, just to name a few. But I'm not going to talk about any of those games today. To know what game I'm talking about, let's look at the PC for a little bit. There was a game I used to play on the PC back when I was an even little EBroxas, called Bust-A-Move. It was a fun little puzzle game that I enjoyed back when I was younger, even though I thought it was hard as frozen walnuts being thrown in my face. But when I heard there was an N64 game that's in the same series, this is what happened to my mind. After hearing of this, I really wanted to play the game, but I could never find it anywhere. Many years later, I did eventually find a game, and oh man, what a freaking awesome game that was. Ladies and gentlemen, Bust-A-Move 99. Ah, Bust-A-Move 99, you're so incredibly awesome. Let's talk about you some. First off, the gameplay. The gameplay is basically a puzzle game. What you do is shoot bubbles and more bubbles to try to get rid of bubbles by getting 3 or more in a row. And to win, you have to either get rid of all the bubbles or have your opponent be royally screwed, then lose. It's fun and very addicting. And there's so many modes in this game to quench your bubble shooting ways. Arcade modes where you either go into other arcade games and beat the inhabitants in Bust-A-Move contests. Puzzle game, which is basically a big map of letters that you have to go through and beat all the puzzles at each of the letters. Multiplayer, which is basically a 4-person bubble popping fest. Challenge modes where it tests out your skills with a bunch of specifically made levels that were designed to test out your Bust-A-Move skills. It's a lot of fun. Win contest is basically an endurance mode where you try to get as many wins as possible. Collections is just a big collection of levels that you can play in any order you want. And edits where you can create your own levels from scratch. And that's what the modes they are. And my honest, yes, this game has a lot of modes, to the point where I think you never run out of stuff you can possibly do in it. Which is
Exactly.
Let's talk about the presentation for a little bit. Aesthetically, this game looks really nice, with very expressive and colorful and adorable sprites, instead of the usual 2.5D and 3D stuff at the time. On the sound side of things, the soundtrack is really good, it's very upbeat and catchy, and the sound effects are also pretty good. And the sounds all the characters make are really cute. Speaking of characters, the characters are really memorable and adorable. Characters like Bub. Bub is the star of this series in a different series called Bubble Bobble, and it's another series I really like. And Bub is a character I like to the point where I've cosplayed as him, believe it or not. And he has a bro named Bob. There's also a little girl in this game which reminds me of Vivi from Final Fantasy IX for whatever reason. Maybe it's the pants. And there's a character named Jack, and he looks like what would happen if King from King of Fighters and James from Pokemon had a kiddo and that kiddo worked at a casino. Just to name a few of the characters. All around, all the characters are very memorable and adorable. Now, thinking about it, this entire game is very sweet, and the kawaii levels of this game are high enough to the point where it could cause a grumpy person like Kratos to go into cuteness overload. And that's one of the many reasons why I love this game so much. But it's strange. Not a lot of people consider this a really good N64 game. Maybe it's me being weird considering it one of the best N64 games. Maybe it's everybody else being weird and not knowing good games when they see it. Maybe I should eat waffles today, or maybe I'm just overreacting. But either way, you guys should try this game and have a lot of fun. Also, Bob, for the next Smash Brothers game, I had to make the joke sometime.